Hi guys, and welcome to what is now the second recording of the NSS for your first assignment. Luckily, one of the students had let me know that there was a problem with the recording, and for some reason the sound was not there together with the recording. So I'm going to just do a quick run through of what I did on the first NSS, just so that there are some particular parts that I can then explain to you in words. I'll keep it short so that it's not too long and you guys have got time to go through it quickly. Okay, so the two documents we're going to look at first are already uploaded on Learn in your announcements. I uploaded them the day after we did the NSS, so you'll be able to get them there. There's this document here that we're looking at, which is called the assessment brief. And this is very important. Please, you must read through it. It's a collection of all important technical information about the uploading of your assignment that I've collected in one place so that you can read it all here and get all of that information so that you don't make a mistake with your uploading or do the wrong thing. Basically, the main thing is that you must upload a PDF file. So there's a bit of information on how to go about doing that if you're not too sure. Okay, do not upload a Word document. You must convert it into PDF. Then there's a short information here about how to upload your assignment. I think I did go through that on Learn with you guys in the in one of the previous collabs. But on your Learn menu down the left-hand side, there's a heading called Assessment Submission. And underneath that menu, you've got all of your submission links. So the first thing that you've got to do is go to the integrity declaration and go through those steps. So you have to accept the integrity declaration and you have to do that first, because if you don't do that, it will not allow you to upload your actual assignment document to the submission links option. Okay. So assessment submission menu, integrity declaration, accept that, and then go to the submission links option on the menu and upload your assignment to the link. You'll get a confirmation, and if you've got that confirmation, everything is good, I'll be able to see your assignment and mark it. Another quick one, any similarity report that you get from Safe Assign, you can ignore that because we don't use that in these numeric modules because your upload is all numbers and tables and calculations, etc. Okay, your final due date, quickly just find that so that I don't tell you the wrong thing. 5122 assignment 1 is due on Tuesday the 18th, so this coming Tuesday. Oh, just get that there. Due date Tuesday the 18th, and you must upload it before 9 p.m. 9 p.m. is the cutoff. Anything else here? Oh yes, one other important thing, if you do encounter any technical IT type problems while trying to submit your assignment, please immediately take screenshots of whatever you've got and let us know via logging a ticket on that VC Assist system with all the details, uploading any screenshots that you've taken to prove that you were trying to upload and that there was a problem. Don't try and contact me, because the tutors have got no access to any of that back end of the systems at all. We'll be totally unable to help you. So your best shot is logging that ticket so that somebody from IT can help you, and that it's recorded that for some reason or other your assignment might be late. Okay, so that's the most important thing. I don't want to dwell on any of that. I'm trying to be as quick as possible. Just talking about assignments being late quickly before I open the next document. If, guys, for some reason you are not able to upload your assignment due to whatever circumstances, and by the way, they do not accept load shedding as a circumstance. You know what the load shedding schedules are, and we know what situation we are in, so you are expected to plan around that and allow for your upload time well before that 9 p.m. to allow for load shedding. But any other reasons why you are not able to complete your assignment or do it by that due date. Immediately that you know that, preferably before the due date, log a ticket with the explanation and with a request for an extension. Okay, so I'm just going to put that in the chat here. Request an extension if for any reason you are not able to meet the deadline. Rather do that than ask for the extension. If it's for some silly reason and they'll deny it, then that's too bad. But they very often do look at those and grant an extension, which means that you don't miss out on uploading that first assignment. So please, guys, remember that. Okay, so the next document that I'm going to upload is called the lesson plan. If you those will be the names that you'll recognize on the documents that I uploaded. So here again, I have just given some run-throughs, and hopefully you guys have already used these documents because they have been uploaded on your announcements for a good while, and this document alone will be very helpful and see you through. So again, right at the top here, I'm reminding you that you must upload a PDF document. There's a note, very important note here about referencing. You guys are academic students. Referencing counts for everything, no matter what you do. Any academic submission must be referenced if necessary. So for your numeric modules, you only need to reference any paragraph type questions or explanation type questions that you need to give. And they must be referenced according to the Harvard method used by VC, which I'm sure you've had training on and is available in all sorts of different places on your student hub and via Learn, etc. I'm not going to take the time to go through this because I'm trying to be quick. You guys must read this, but my goodness, I've just finished marking 2 different assignments. I went over the same thing with those students, and time after time on papers, I am still writing this down as comments. Read your questions carefully. Look answer what was asked. Don't leave anything out. Show your workings, etc. Those are the places that time after time students throw marks away. All I can do is warn you, please just try and after you finished your assignment, go back, check those points and do another quick read through. Okay, so these are notes. So question 1 of the assignment is for 10 marks. This is mostly theoretical. These 2 set 1.1 I think is 5 marks and 1.2 is 5 marks. So 1.1 is true or false. You will need to cover both learning units 1 and 2 for both of these questions. So you will need to read through all of the theory from LU 1 and 2 in order to be able to make sure that you've got these 2 questions right. Please do not throw away 10 marks. It's 10% of the paper. Be very careful with your answers and double check them. So you will need to read through that text to identify the relevant sections where the answers are. So read the question carefully and make sure that you are answering exactly what was asked. Okay, so true or false, it doesn't need to be referenced and match the term. Also, no need to reference those questions, even though they are technically theory questions. You're not having to write paragraphs explaining and defining, etc. like that. Okay, so question 2 for 50 marks. Just go to the page here. So this is obviously the big meaty question, question 2 and 3. Please also, guys, take note that they are setting the scene for a case study in this question, where they say Stella is a friend of yours and she recently started her business. So where they ask theory questions, you must relate the theory to the case study. Don't just quote stuff straight out of the textbook. If they say, please advise Stella on what she blah, blah, then you must answer, I will tell Stella that, and then whatever the answer is. And then these questions you will reference. Okay. And I'm saying that because there was a similar question in another assignment from another module, and they ignored that. They did not relate their answers to the case study. It's very important. So for questions 2.1.1 to 2.1.5, you'll find these answers in your textbooks. Obviously, these are all from Learning Unit 1, the Bank Recon chapter. You will have to read through the relevant sections. So these questions are forcing you to read and study the theory in the textbooks, which we know students are not very good at doing. So for these questions from 1.1 to 2.1.5, please read the number. Sorry, let me just grab a color here. Here. The number of marks for each question and answer appropriately. So if there's 6 marks or 4 marks or 2 marks, make sure you are giving the correct amount of facts for that number of marks. Okay. So what else? So question 2.1.4, in that one where it says provide one example of each of the following. When they say provide one example, they want you to provide a real life example to illustrate that particular activity and error committed by the bank. Okay. So you must think of some kind of an actual transaction that could have taken place that the bank could have recorded in one way, and instead they recorded it in a different way. You can't just say the bank made a mistake when they recorded a transaction. That's not an example. Okay, so those 4, be very careful. Don't lose those 4 marks. So this one over here, I'm just highlighting that, NB. You must do real life examples. And then also here, make sure to reference these questions, excepting for question 2.1.4, because that's going to come out of your own brain and imagination. So you won't need to reference that, but the rest must be referenced. Then question 2.5, you've got a summary of cash book receipts and cash book payments, and you have got a bank statement and some other additional information given. And there are 3 parts to this question, 2.1, 2.2, and 2.3. So what I've done over here in the lesson plan is I have just given you, these are certain questions in your textbook. So these are textbook questions, 1.2, 1.4, 1.8. And if you use these questions, you will find similar transactions in these questions, and you'll be able to follow exactly how you should do this question 2.2 by using these questions as examples to follow. So you'll look for similar types of transactions in the questions, and you'll look to see what they did. In this question 2.2, please, there is at the bottom of page 5 of your assignment, hopefully you've printed it out so that you can use it as a working copy to make notes on and highlight and cross off, etc. At the bottom of page 5, additional information given. Please take note of that. It's there because it is important and you need to use it in your answers. And also, and reminding you, revise from your textbook which information you use to produce your bank account in the general ledger. So the bank account, remember, is the T account in the general ledger, which is the bank balance in your records, and which information you use for the bank recon. And remember, the bank recon is where you take the closing balance of the bank statement that you've received and you reconcile that, the bank's balance according to the bank statement, to your balance in your bank account, so that when you have finished the reconciliation, the closing balance in your bank account exactly equals the last line on your bank recon. So what you are doing in this bank recon is you are taking your books, which you record from your cash books into your T account in your general ledger. Those are your books. You're taking that total and you are reconciling it to the bank's records of what your bank balance is. And you are using the bank statement to get that information from. And the bank recon is the document that you draw up, which is an internal document, where you start at the top with the bank statement closing balance, and you plus or minus all the errors or outstanding transaction that don't yet appear on the bank statement, and to end up with the bank balance that must exactly agree with your bank balance. Okay, so particularly the figure that you use for the opening balances in your bank account and on the bank recon. So that, pay attention to that, and then you should do better in that particular question. Then question 3 is for 40 marks. This one is on Learning Unit 2. So we've got on the debtors and the creditors reconciliation. So again, take note of the dates of the transactions that are given. In the Antares stores account, because they span the months of, so this is on page 7 of your assignment document. That statement that they've printed is Zodiac General Dealers, which is your business, and this is your debtor statement. So your customer, Antares stores, they owe you this money. But look at the date column. The first date is the 1st of November 2022, and we've got 2 transactions that take place in the month of November, and then that in the balance column will be closing November amount that your customer owes you. Then we've got 2 transactions that take place in December 22. So the 43710 would be the closing December balance that your customer owes you. And then we have got 3 transactions that take place in January 2023. So the 43828 is the closing balance that your customer owes you at the end of January, and then 2 transactions that take us to the end of February 2023. So this statement from you to your customer shows that your customer owes you 60,095 Rand and 60 cents as at the 28th of February 2023. So just take note of those dates. This statement covers 4 months, November, December, January, and February. It's got transactions from all 4 of those months. Okay. And then talking about the age analysis, at the bottom of the statement printed on page 7, we've got an age analysis that says 90 days, 60 days, 30 days, and current. So what that means is that in bookkeeping with credit accounts, the current month will always be the latest month that we have just closed off our books for. So in this case, February 2023 is the current month because we are producing this statement as at the end of February. So any invoices or money that they owe you from February invoices would be current. So working backwards from that, that means that any amounts they still owe you relating to January is 30 days, December is 60 days, and November outstanding amounts would then be 90 days. Okay. And then also just remember where it comes to the balance, this is a debtors account, which means that the balance column is a debit balance because a debtor is an asset in your books, and assets increase on the debit side, and assets have got a carrying debit balance. So that means if you want to increase the amount that your customer owes you, you must put the amount in the debit column because assets increase on the debit side. If your customer pays you some money or you give a credit note and you want to decrease the amount your customer owes you, that will go in the credit column because assets decrease in the credit column. Sorry, just looking for my pencil. Okay, so on your question paper, put a plus above the debit column, put a minus above the credit column, and then write DR or debit above the word balance. So that before you even, so that as you are working through the transactions, you constantly forcing yourself, if I want to increase the balance, put it in the debit column. If I want to decrease the balance, put it in the credit column, because my balance is a debit balance, because this is a debtor. Debtors, debit. Okay, that's easy. If this was a creditor's account, one of your suppliers that you owed money to, the balance column would be a credit carrying balance because it would be a liability. And we know that liabilities increase on the credit side and decrease on the debit side. So it's exactly the opposite. So if perhaps in the exam you get a creditor's account to work through, above the balance column, you will write the word credit, and you will put a big plus above the credit column and a minus above the debit column if it was a liability. Okay, so this is an asset, it's a debtor, it's an asset. Debtors stands for debit. The balance is a debit balance, and assets increase on the debit column and decrease on the credit column. 3.1, explain in your own words for 3 marks. And I don't think it's necessary to reference that particular question unless obviously you are using your textbook and you found information in your textbook or online somewhere to help you explain that, then definitely reference it. Okay. When we say here in your own words, that means that you absolutely, for every single of these paragraph questions, you must paraphrase and use your own words. And that is how you prevent plagiarism. If you forget to reference throughout your whole assignment, you will lose 5%. What happens then is we mark the whole assignment, arrive at whatever the mark is for your assignment, and then we deduct 5% from that for no referencing or very poor referencing. So please, it is important. Then question 3.2, revise the correct format for a journal entry from your accounting 1A, so from 5121, is where you were introduced to, remember in 1A you did all of your journals, your cash books first. We did the 3 different cash books, and then you did your you did credit entries and sundry entries. So remember, sundry entries are, whoopsie, that's not going to work. Sorry, I'm just trying to type something there. This doesn't always work. Sundry transactions are what we recall in the general journal. So go back to 1A, your textbook, go and revise the correct format for the general journal. Remember, that's the one that has 1 long debit column and 1 long credit column, and only 1 column for details, apart from the date and folio on the left-hand side. And in the details column, we put the name of the general ledger account that we are going to debit. That always goes first. And then the amount that it's going to be debited. And then underneath that, the name of the general ledger account that's going to get the credit part of the entry. And then we put the amount in the credit column. So some transactions are not just 1 account debited and 1 account credited, especially if there's VAT involved. There's more than more than 2 general ledger accounts involved. But the one thing that you have to remember is, according to your accounting equation, every single journal entry as a standalone entry, the rand value of the debits has to be identical to the rand value of the credits. Only then is your journal entry complete, and you can rule a line underneath it and then go on underneath that and do the next one. Okay, so in this case, they just want you to prepare the general journal entry required to correct the mistake noted in 1 above. In other words, 3.1 above. Journal narration is required, so that means the little description after we've written down our debit account and our credit account with the two amounts. Underneath that, on the details column, we write a short little sentence that tells us what the purpose of that specific general journal is. What is that general journal correcting or recording or whatever it is? That's what a narration is. It's basically a description. And then in 3.3, apply your own knowledge to answer this question. So again, you have to have studied your textbook first to be able to do this. But in your textbooks, question 2.6 from your textbook is very similar to this question. So go and have a look at 2.6, work through it, make sure you understand the solution, and then that will explain to you, give you a very good idea of how to go about doing this question 3.3. We here are doing debtors and creditors reconciliation. So this is a debtors book. So we've got the debtors control account, which remember is the T account in your general ledger. And the debtors list is the list of customers that owe you money, the total for per each customer, and that total of the debtors list has to exactly equal with the total of your debtors control account in the general ledger. So just like in the bank reconciliation, we are reconciling our records in our general ledger for our bank account balance with the bank statement from the bank's records for our bank account. Here we are reconciling our general ledger record for everything that went into the debtors control account with the debtors ledger, which is a separate record that we record sorted by customer, and the total of all of those customers' statements must exactly equal the debtors control. Remember, with debtors and creditors, all of the transactions that take place between us and a debtor or us and a creditor, we record twice. We record it once in our subsidiary journal. Let's say this is debtors. So in this case, we would have recorded the transaction in our debtors journal or debtors allowances journal, or it might have been in the cash book receipts. And then for each of those transactions that were recorded in those journals, we then go to the debtors ledger. We look for the record of the individual customer involved, and we record that transaction on their account as well a second time. So let every invoice that we make out to our customer is recorded once in the debtors journal, and then it is recorded also on that particular customer's individual record. That's why our reconciliation is necessary, because we might have made a mistake recording in the subsidiary journal or on the debtors record, or we might have recorded a transaction only on the one recording system and not on the other. And in that case, the totals of the two will not balance. That's why we do a debtors reconciliation and a creditors reconciliation, to check that our record keeping in our systems in both the general ledger and the debtors ledger match exactly, and we didn't leave anything out or make any mistakes. Then question 3.4 is a theory question. In your own words, explain what you understand by debtors age analysis. Again, if you've used a source, then you must reference that. Question 3.5, again, I have put here, revise the correct format for a general journal entry from accounting 1A, because here again, they're asking you to prepare the journal entry to record the settlement discount granted if the particular customers pay us within 30 days. Because remember, if you've gone back to the additional information on page 7 at the bottom of the statement, under terms, they tell us there that if Antares pays us within 30 days from date of statement, they can get 5% discount. And then also I've put the note here Also in Accounting 1A textbook, your question 5.2 and question 5.4 is where you were taught about settlement discounts, explanation of how we treat that in the accounting, in our bookkeeping systems, and also where you will find an example of the journal that we pass when granting settlement discount. So that's where you will go to revise that information before you do question 3.5. Then question 3.6, also question 5.4 from Accounting 1A will assist you with that, which is also another journal entry that you have to record, in this case the interest receivable. If you charge Antares stores interest for an outstanding account, what would that journal entry look like? Question 3.7 all the way through to the end of question 3.11, apply your knowledge of the theory in this chapter to answer these questions. Have a look, make sure you have a look at the number of marks allocated to each question, and remember to use your own words to paraphrase and to reference where appropriate. And finally, again, just another massive reminder, please read all instructions carefully, read the questions carefully, make sure you are doing what was asked. Don't forget your reference list or the bibliography, which must be the very last page of your assignment. Okay, so hopefully you guys have already been working with that document that you have had available to you for some time already. And then I'm just quickly going to pop up the actual assignment itself on the screen. I don't think there's too much here that if there's anything here that I just need to go over with you. That's just the header page. Okay, so question 1 is quite straightforward. Question 1.1, true or false. You must follow the instructions. So they tell you here, all you must do is write down the question number, and then next to the number, write true or false. You don't have to reproduce the whole table. And then question 1.2 is match the column, the term in column A with the correct statement in column B. So again, here are the instructions. Please read them very carefully. The instructions are important. In your answer booklet, you only write down the number of the question, so 1.2 point whatever, and then next to that, the letter of the correct answer from column B. Okay. Please, I can't tell you how often students lose marks because they haven't followed instructions. So this is the question number. You will write down 1.2.1, and then next to that, you will just pick one of these letters and write that down next to the question number. Okay. Again, be very careful. Those questions can look super easy, but they can be tricky. So just make sure you've read them carefully. So here was our question 2, where these up to 1.5, you'll find all of these answers in the textbook. These ones are theory questions. You have to read the textbook to find those answers, and they must be referenced. Remember, this 2.1.4 is the one where I said they've asked for an example. So this must be a real life example coming out of your own, I'm using the word imagination, but you know what I mean. Then question 2.2 is the one where you have to then actually go and execute a bank reconciliation. So they are giving you the cash book receipts for December. They are giving you over the page the cash book payments for December. So remember, these 2 cash books that they are giving us here are we've come to the end of December. We've recorded all of our transactions, but before we close off our books for the month, we first have to do all of our reconciliations to pick up any errors so that we can correct the errors before we close off our books and roll over to the next month. So these cash books are the cash books as they stand before any correction of any errors. Okay. And then our bank statement as at the 31st of December. So this was the 1st of December's bank balance according to the bank, remember. And this is the closing December's bank balance according to the bank, because this is the bank's record of our bank account. Here's the additional information that I said please pay attention to. Make sure you read that and you know what to do with that. I'm not going to go through the actual details. You can see exactly, I've spoken about this when we were going through the lesson plan. Okay, so use the lesson plan in conjunction with this so that you are reading the lesson plan as you're doing the assignment to make sure what you've got to watch out for. Then 2.2.1 wants you to, from the information provided above, calculate the corrected closing total for cash book receipts and for cash book payments after taking into account all of the adjustments required. So remember what they've already given you over here, the list of transactions for December. They didn't total it. So you need to add to these transactions any corrections that the business must make in their books, which will obviously be only if the business has either left something out or made a mistake. You correct it then in the business's records, and then you will total all of these plus the corrections to get what the business's closing cash book payments and cash book receipts is. Remember, if the bank has made a mistake or left something out, those errors or omissions are recorded on the bank recon, which has a starting balance of the bank's closing statement balance, and then underneath the 8.4 you will then plus or minus any errors that the bank made or transactions that the bank must still record. And then using the amounts obtained in 2.2.1 from your two cash books, you must then post those to the bank account in the general ledger and balance the general ledger account. So in other words, you will then complete the bank account, T account in your general ledger for the month of December. Please don't forget the opening balance. So you'll draw up the T account. The first thing you do is record the opening balance for the month of December. Then you will post the total of the cash book receipts, the total of the cash book payments, and work out what the closing December bank balance is. When they say balance it, they mean they want you to work out the total. Remember, just like you also learned last in accounting 1A, go back there and revise how to balance an account if you have forgotten. It was right near the beginning. I think it's in probably learning unit 2. Don't quote me on that. It might be in a different one. And then in 2.2.3, now that you have got the correct totals in your books and you've got the bank statement, you can now go and prepare December's bank recon. Okay. Then for our question 3, this was the debtors ledger question. So they have told Stephen owns and runs a store called Zodiac General Dealer. So that is us, it's our business. And we sell, I'm saying we, but this is Stephen, sell goods on credit. And at the end of the month of February, Stephen went over all the information because he discovered that his debtors control account, so in other words, his T account in the general ledger, debtors control T account, the balance would be on the debit side. Why does his debtors control account not match up with the total of the debtors list? So he discovered the following, and then they give us all this other information about various different customers. So we've got a customer, B. Baker, and Mr. Asher, and Miss Capricorn, and all the rest of it. And then they're telling us that the debtors control balance, so that's the general ledger balance at the end of Feb, was 42,640. And the debtors list balance at the end of February was 48,490. So you can see there's a difference between those two. And we have to find out, have we made a mistake in our general ledger, or have we made a mistake in the debtors ledger? And correct mistakes in either, so that at the end of the day, these two amounts are exactly the same. Then here is our statement to this one particular customer of ours, Antares Stores. Remember, I told you there's November, December, January, and February transactions, but this is the closing balance of the account as at the 28th of February. 5% discount is granted if the customer pays us within 30 days of the statement date. The debt has to be paid within 60 days of the statement date at the latest, and if it's paid after that, we will then charge them interest at 2% per month on balances that are 90 days overdue. So remember, the interest, the 2% interest, is only charged on the rand value that is 90 days and older. We don't charge them interest on the entire account, only those amounts that are overdue. Okay, so these are theory questions. This is you must explain for 3 marks. And then for 5 marks, prepare the general journal entry. So again, go and revise your general journals. Make sure you know the correct format for the general journal. And then what would you debit and what would you credit to correct the mistake noted in 1 above. Journal narration is required, which just means you need to do that little description underneath: debit amount, name of account debited amount, name of account credited amount, and underneath that a short description of what the journal entry is for. 5 marks. And then for 11 marks, you've got to do this little recon. So just take note here. Incorrect balance on the 28th of February. So you're going to start at the top here with the debtors control balance as it is currently on the 28th of February, and the debtors list balance as it is currently on the 28th of February. So that will be on the previous page where they gave you those 2 closing balances. Let's go back there quickly. Here. Okay. These balances. Those are the balances that you will begin this exercise with, because we know that we have the 2 balances, but they are not the same. Then if I need to make any corrections on my debtors ledger side, I'll do that correction in this column. If I have made any corrections on the debtors, what did I say? Did I say debtors ledger? This side here is the general ledger. Okay, this is the GL, which means your subsidiary journals where you recorded, so the DAJ and the DJ. And on this side is the debtors ledger, which is the individual records for each of your customers. Where was the mistake? So it's exactly the same thing as a bank account, where you have to identify, did the bank make the error or did the business make the error? Over here, we're saying, was the error made in the subsidiary journal records, or was the error made in the debtors list records? So that's 11 marks for arriving at this total. When you get to the bottom over here, those two totals must be exactly the same. And then for 3 marks, in your own words, no plagiarism, please. What do you understand by a debtors analysis? So just explain what a debtors age analysis is. What is its purpose, and how do we use it? For 3 marks, 3 different facts. And then 3.5, prepare again another journal entry. So they're really testing you guys with these journal entries. And it is super important, guys, because if you are going to go on and do accounting 2 next year, you have to be so good at doing journal entries, really understand them and not make any mistakes. So don't embarrass me if you do accounting 2 next year and let your lecturer see you don't know how to do journal entries. So in this case, we're going to record the settlement discount granted. And in your lesson plan, that other document, I've explained to you where to go and find the information for that one. Okay, guys, I'm going to stop there. We've got to the end. Oh no, not quite to the end. There's another couple of the last page of questions. So 3.6. So here again was the journal entry to record interest receivable. You'll also find that info on your lesson plan. So over here, there is an error on the statement. So an actual bookkeeping error. The statement wasn't done correctly. Identify the error. So you have to, number 1, state the error. There is an error with line number or the whatever it happens to be, describe it. And explain why it is wrong. So that's for 2 marks. Identify and the explanation of why it is an error. That's your 2 marks. So here is another explain when this amount will appear on their statement. So they've given you a little scenario, little mini case study. And this is just a date. So there's 1 mark. All you have to do is when. What date will this amount appear on their statement? For 1 mark, write down in which column on the bank statement, so the debit side or the credit side, will the 10,000 appear once it has been deposited. So in other words, in the bank's records, will it be a debit or a credit? Which, remember, is always exactly opposite to what it will be in your records. Mirror image. If we debit it in our general ledger, the bank will credit it in their general ledger. Because in our books, when we deposit money into the bank becomes a debtor, in other words, an asset, because the bank owes us that money that's sitting in their vaults. That belongs to us, so we record them as a debtor in our books. That's why the bank account is a debit. And when we deposit money in the bank in their books will record the fact that they owe us that money because they are holding it for us on our behalf in their vault. So it doesn't belong to them. We are actually a creditor in their books. It's a liability because they owe us that money. So a bank account is an asset, a debit in our books, and a credit, a liability in the bank's books. In which journal, okay, subsidiary journal, will the 10,000 be recorded? And then for 4 marks, do you a little, again, just a little sort of a case study kind of a thing. And this is really just testing your own understanding that interest is not an effective way of getting their debtors to pay. So do you agree or disagree? Provide 2 reasons why you have said you agree or disagree, and then provide 1 alternative method that the general dealers could use to ensure that their customers do pay within 60 days of the statement date. So there you've got to use your general knowledge of what you know about business and collecting money from customers. So as long as your answers make sense and would be practical, you will get those marks. There's no right or wrong answer here. Okay, agree or disagree, and then you have to justify why you've agreed or disagreed and as long as you can justify your answer, you'll get the marks. Okay, guys, I know this has been a little bit of a rush, but I really wanted to make sure that I could upload this for you guys. I felt bad when I realized that there was no sound on that recording. It's very disappointing. But anyway, now you have got a description, and I'm going to remind you again, any questions at all while you are busy doing your assignment, please keep in touch with me so that there's this constant conversation going. Anything you want to know, send me a message via Learn or an email, and then I can help you. Okay, don't ever hesitate to ask questions. Okay, guys, lovely to talk to you again. I'm going to end the recording here, and I will chat to you guys again next time.